I could have everyone take their seats. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. If you would stand for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please pray with me if you'd like to. Dear Lord, as we gather tonight in service to the residents of St. Lucie County, we are grateful for the opportunity to help shape the future of this remarkable community. We give thanks for the generations before us whose hard work, sacrifice, and vision helped build St. Lucie County into the place we proudly serve today. May we honor that legacy by leading with wisdom and humility as we continue preparing for the opportunities and challenges ahead. Lord, guide our conversations this evening so we remain thoughtful, respectful, and focused on what's best for our residents, not only for today, but for the future generations that will one day call this county home. Lord, bless this board, our staff, first responders, community partners, and all residents of St. Lucie County. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And with that, we're going to take a brief recess and go into our special district meeting, starting with Commissioner Clasby. Chair Clasby.
We will now come to order as the erosion district. If anybody from the public would like to comment on the erosion district, please come forward to the podium. Seeing no one move towards the podium, we will close public comment, and I will entertain an approval of the minutes from April 21st, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. We will move on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. We have no further items on this agenda. We will adjourn the erosion district, and we will come to order as the environmental control district. At this time, if anybody would like to address the environmental control district, please come up forward to the podium. Seeing no one move, we will close public comment and move on to the approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the February 17th, 2026 minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. There are no further items on the agenda. We will go back to the regular meeting.
All right, and with that, we'll bring it over to Chair Lowry for her districts.
Okay, we come together as the mosquito control district. First item of business is public comment. Is there anyone that wishes to address the board at this time? Seeing no movement, we'll move on to approval of minutes. We have to approve minutes from meeting of April 21st, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. There are no items on regular agenda. So, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. Next, we have Sustainability District. We come together as a Sustainability District. First item of business is public comment. Is there anyone that would like to address the board at this time? Okay. We need approval of the minutes for February 17th, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. There are no scheduled items for consent or regular agenda, so motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll come back to our regular meeting. And with that, I need a motion for the approval of the agenda with the additions, deletions, and revisions.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have no presentations. I'll go ahead at this time, open it up to public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board, please come to the podium, give us your name, address, and you have 3 minutes. Seeing no movement, I'm going to close public comment and come back to Madam Secretary for our first proclamation.
Resolution number 26-069, a resolution proclaiming May 2026 as National Foster Care Awareness Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. The family is the indispensable foundation of society at its best. It performs tasks that no other entity can hope to duplicate. The family has the primary responsibility for nurturing children, transmitting our culture, and building the character traits that make for healthy adults and good citizens. Upon the strength of the family rests the future of our nation. For a variety of reasons, however, some parents are unable to provide a minimal acceptable level of care for their children, and temporary or permanent alternative placement is necessary. National Foster Care Month presents an appropriate opportunity for all of us, public officials, business, religious, and community leaders, and parents alike, to reflect on the pressures facing families today and on the need for increased efforts to ensure that abandoned or abused children have the opportunity to live in healthy, loving homes. The emphasis in foster care must be on the well-being of the child, and public policy must serve to promote alternative placement that represents actual care and not mere custody. Because the tasks facing foster parents often include special challenges, such as care of a child who is physically or mentally handicapped, or who has been emotionally or physically abused, the mothers and fathers whom society qualifies to accept these added responsibilities must be held to a higher standard. To accomplish this goal, many more happy and successful families must be willing to step forward and offer to share heart and home with children desperately longing for both. The aim of all foster care must be the establishment for the child of a sense of permanence and belonging. National Foster Care Month also provides an opportunity to offer public thanks for the sacrifices and dedication of the many foster parents and concerned professionals working in the field of foster care. Their jobs require extraordinary patience and love, and their rewards are often reaped only years after their primary labor is done. When the child is grown and fully appreciates what has been done for him or her, or when society pauses its hectic rush forward to recognize the good they have accomplished. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, that this board does hereby proclaim May 2026 as National Foster Care Awareness Month in St. Lucie County, Florida, passed and duly adopted this 19th day of May 2026.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve resolution number 26069.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have with us Kenya Reithart and Corey Campbell from 4Kids Treasure Coast to accept this. If you guys, once you say a few words, please come up so we can take a photo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to thank the board for having us this evening. And I've been with 4Kids 10 years here in the Treasure Coast, and it's been an honor to collaborate with all of you collectively and individually. Thank you so much for your support, whether that's bringing awareness, giving of your treasure, giving of your time, or just being a voice for the children here in St. Lucie County. 4Kids is propelled by a vision, a home for every child, with a mission that we can boldly and mightily bring hope to kids in crisis here in our community. And we couldn't do that without the support of our local churches, businesses, community leaders, and individuals, and many of those in this room as well, who have walked alongside 4Kids and supported our families over the past 12 years here in the Treasure Coast. We are not the answer to the foster care crisis, but together we can solve this crisis. And it takes more than just 4Kids to do the work that we do. We couldn't do what we do without that support. So thank you so much. I want to honor our foster families for the incredible sacrifice that they make day in and day out. They're the faceless community, along with our kids, that many don't see the work that they do and the time that they give to give children a sense of home, a place to belong, stability and safety, and probably the hardest thing that children will ever have to go through in their lives, being in the foster care system. So I want to honor our families. Corey O'Carroll is one of our families. He works at 4Kids. He is our foster parent recruiter. I got to pass that torch on to him 2 years ago. And, on behalf of the 150 children that were removed from their homes in St. Lucie County last year, thank you for recognizing them. Thank you for seeing their faces, and thank you for being a voice for them. Currently, 4Kids has close to 40 foster families in the Treasure Coast, and I'm sure you can do the math, and that's just not enough. So I would invite everybody in here and the board to join with us in May, Go Blue 4Kids, and bring awareness to the need for more foster families in our community and the support that we need to keep doing what we do here in your community. Thank you.
Kenya, thank you so much. We really appreciate everything that you guys do. It's, your work is so impactful in the community.
That's exactly why I'm wearing blue tonight, too.
Thank you again for being here and all the work that you guys do. And with that, we go into our second proclamation for National Public Works Week.
Resolution number 26-074, a resolution proclaiming the week of May 17th through 23rd, 2026 as the National Public Works Week in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. Public works infrastructure and service could not be provided without the dedicated service of the county's public works professionals. These professionals include maintenance workers, equipment operators, engineers, support staff, and employees at all managerial levels. Public works personnel work to rehabilitate, improve, and maintain the county's transportation network and stormwater infrastructure. It is important for leaders, workers, and citizens in our county to understand and maintain interest in the importance of public works and the various public works programs throughout St. Lucie County. The public works staff in St. Lucie County are qualified and talented individuals who come together to create a team of dedicated professionals that fulfill first responder duties during natural disasters and other emergencies. It is important to remember the value their work has to the community. The public works staff in St. Lucie County are vital to managing and executing projects funded by the 2018 voter-approved half-cent infrastructure sales tax initiative, which is improving roads, building more sidewalks, and supporting water quality projects in the community. 2026 marks the 66th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association. The association wishes to recognize public works employees for their substantial contributions to our daily health, safety, and comfort. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, does hereby proclaim the week of May 17th through 23rd, 2026 as National Public Works Week in St. Lucie County, Florida, and encourages all citizens to support public works activities this week and throughout the year. Passed and duly adopted this 19th day of May 2026.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We have with us this evening Patrick Diane, our Public Works Director, Chris Lestrange, our Assistant Director of Public Works, and our County Engineer, Dan Zarellick. And I just have to say, guys, truly, on behalf of the board and especially District 4, I cannot thank you guys enough for all the work you do. Roads, sidewalks, water quality, stormwater. I know today alone, between me and Teresa, I think we shot off about a dozen emails to your department alone. So truly, truly invaluable. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners, and I'll be brief, but I just wanted to really thank this board on behalf of the 101 passionate, dedicated professionals that take care of everything that the Chair just mentioned. We're very, very proud to have your trust, your belief, and your support as we continue to have just a ton of fun carrying out the projects that we do and helping the lives of our citizens every day. And we truly do respect what we do as a component of the quality of life for our everyday residents, visitors, and the other people who enjoy the transportation, drainage, and safety infrastructure that we continue to deliver on. So thank you very much. I don't know if Dan, Chris, if you want to say any words. All right. Thank you very much, and we greatly appreciate this proclamation.
Thank you.
Patrick, do you want to come up for a photo? Okay.
We were trying to house, but they started 7 a.m.
That's right. Thank you, guys. All right, that concludes the proclamations. With that, I need an approval of the minutes for April 21st and May 5th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. Real quick, I'd like to point out 10E1, I would like to thank the Community Education Foundation for their continued support of our library summer reading program, which distributes books free of charge to qualified students. We have summer coming up. 10G1, Parks and Rec. Sunshades for the Weldon E. Lewis Playground. So this is near and dear to my heart. It is completely out in the sun in the open by 10 a.m. The playground equipment is just useless. So really excited to have a park with equipment that we'll be able to use throughout the day now. And then on to Public Works, two great things under Public Works. 10L2 is the baffle box for Edwards Road, which is going to help to cleanse the water before discharging out into the river. And 10L4, St. James, there's a gap in the sidewalk from Lazy River Parkway to Royce Avenue. That'll be filled in. So a lot of good stuff on this. If there's nothing else, I'll accept a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going to start this evening. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. With a regular agenda item under Environmental Resources, 1313 White Oak Lane. Good evening, Amy. This is quasi-judicial. Commissioner Clasby, may I start with you?
Yes, I believe I've spoken with the applicant and staff on this.
Staff on this one.
I am the planning staff, and just in regards to the project and the minimal amount of impact.
Staff.
All right. The floor is yours. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. For the record, I'm Brian Ingram, Senior Environmental Planner with the Environmental Resources Department, presenting a Category 1 wetland waiver on behalf of Brian Downing for the property owner Joseph Lucas of 1313 White Oak Lane, Fort Pierce, Florida, 34982. The St. Lucie County Comprehensive Plan classifies wetlands into three categories based on their size, location, and hydrologic connectivity to adjacent water bodies. Category 1 wetlands are those which are hydrologically connected to a natural surface water body, are 20 acres or larger, or contain strategic habitat conservation areas. Impacts to a Category 1 wetland or its buffer may only be approved by the Board of County Commissioners in accordance with Comprehensive Plan Policy 6.1.14.3. The subject half-acre parcel is located at 1313 White Oak Lane, about 1/2 mile west of Oleander Avenue, and about 1.4 miles south of West Midway Road. It abuts a St. Lucie County-owned parcel on what appears to be the historic oxbow of the North Fork of the St. Lucie River. The subject wetland is classified as Category 1 due to its size and connectivity to a larger wetland system to the west and south, and to the St. Lucie River beyond that. A smaller 799 square foot non-jurisdictional wetland also exists, centrally located near the northern property line of this parcel. The subject parcel is zoned RS3 with a future land use designation of residential urban. The parcel to the east and northeast are also zoned RS3 with a future land use designation of residential urban. The adjacent parcels to the northwest, west, and south are zoned conservation public with a future land use of conservation public. The subject parcel contains approximately 383 square feet of Category 1 wetland that is hydrologically connected to the North Fork of the St. Lucie River, as shown in green on this slide. The limits of the wetland were verified by the Department of Environmental Protection on January 7th, 2026, and by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on February 4th, 2026. Approximately 14,495 square feet, or 1/3 of an acre, of Category 1 upland buffer exists on the subject site, about 64% of the parcel. This parcel appears to have been filled since before 2004, with additional fill being added in 2009. This is the proposed site plan as reviewed and approved by FDEP and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. A general permit was granted by FDEP for impacts to the small 799 square foot isolated Category 3 wetland near the center north portion of the parcel on January 7, 2026. No FDEP permit is necessary for impacts to the Cat 1 wetland, as no direct impacts to that wetland are proposed. An Army Corps of Engineers approved jurisdictional determination letter dated February 4, 2026 specified that the parcel does not contain waters of the U.S. and is therefore not jurisdictional to the Army Corps. No mitigation is required by either FDEP or the Army Corps, as there is no direct impacts to the Category 1 wetland, and the Category 3 wetland is under the size threshold that would require mitigation by FDEP. The applicant submitted a site plan with a single-family residential structure totaling approximately 2,961 base area square feet, a 250 square foot porch, 750 square foot septic drain field area, and associated driveway and infrastructure. The preserved wetland and buffer areas shown in blue and green on this slide shall be restored by the removal of invasive plants in accordance with the provided preserve area management and monitoring plan. If areas are left bare as a result of nuisance, native and invasive vegetation removal or restoration plan will be sent to the county for approval under a separate cover. Per Comprehensive Plan Policy 6.1.14.3, the board may grant a wetland waiver to impact a Category 1 wetland or its associated buffer when no other reasonable alternative exists, and avoidance and minimization of impacts cannot otherwise be achieved. Staff has reviewed the subject wetland waiver request and made the following determinations. The strict criteria for granting a Cat 1 wetland waiver detailed in the Comprehensive Plan Policy 6.1.14.3 requires avoidance and minimization of impacts to the greatest extent feasible while still allowing reasonable use of the property. 0 square feet of the Cat 1 wetland on site is proposed to be impacted. All 383 square feet of the Category 1 wetland on site will be preserved. Approximately 0.15 acres or 6,348 square feet of the wetlands buffer is proposed to be impacted, about 1/7 of an acre, 28% of the parcel. The remaining 0.17 acres or 7,704 square feet of remaining wetland buffer shall be placed under a conservation easement, about 1/6 of an acre or 1/3 of the parcel. Efforts to avoid and minimize wetland impacts include using minimum front yard setbacks, positioning the impacts primarily within the previously impacted filled areas to the north of the property, and building and proposing a house, patio, and backyard of modest square footage. Staff has determined this proposed site plan meets the avoidance and minimization criteria for Cat 1 wetland impacts and therefore recommends approval of the subject wetland waiver request to the Board of County Commissioners with the following conditions. That concludes my presentation, and staff is available to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you. All right, and now we're going to go into our public hearings, starting with Fort Pierce Commerce Center.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Good evening, Corey.
Corey Benton, Planning Manager, for the record, joined by Amy Cooper, the Environmental Regulations Manager.
Evening.
For Fort Pierce Commerce Center. Madam Chair, members of the board, this is a dual presentation for both agenda items 12A1, which is a legislative matter for the future land use map amendment, and 12A2, which is a quasi-judicial hearing for the proposed planned non-residential development rezoning and preliminary plan that has an associated wetland waiver before you.
Corey, because this is a joint presentation, one item is quasi, the other isn't, but let's go ahead and do our disclosures to.
Yeah, I'd like to disclose that I've spoke with staff, meaning the planning department, the environmental resources department, the applicant as well.
Corey Planning, ERD, Leslie Olson with District Planning.
Met with the planning staff, ERD staff, the applicant, and Leslie Olson.
The same, met with staff, the applicant and ERD,
All right.
an applicant, sorry.
Nope, sorry. You're good. All right, Corey.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
So as you may recall, the items were scheduled for the Board of County Commissioners April 6th, 2026 agenda. At that time, the board acted upon continuance requests for both items to this evening's docket at the request of the applicant. It was continued to a date certain. Therefore, no formal notice was required. However, staff did distribute mailers as a courtesy to owners of property within 500 feet, providing indication of tonight's hearing. And that's displayed here in this subset. Simply for context, though, this application in various forms originated probably in late 2021 and early 2022 in its concept form, in which the applicant launched a neighborhood meeting back in 2022, unveiling some conceptual plans, and over time, based upon feedback from staff, stakeholders in the area, modified and refined it with a follow-up virtual meeting in May of 2025. The petition site is displayed on screen, just shy of 76 acres in size. Note to the east, various large lot, single-family residential units along Copenhagen Road, which is a dead-end road north of Graham Road, which is situated adjacent to Interstate I-95. To the north, we have undeveloped property, predominantly, but some larger lot residences to the northeast. The former Fort Pierce High site to the southwest that has an interim flex industrial use. That site is located in the city of Fort Pierce. And then further to the west across South Kings Highway, we have the petitioned Pruitt Commerce Center, which has secured the adopted MXD land use designation. Throughout the development review process, there was a lot of discussion regarding an abutting parcel here identified in blue and yellow highlights. It's just over 10 acres in size. It's not part of this petition. However, there's a legacy easement that's roughly a half a century old that will be a topic of discussion this evening. As displayed on screen, here's the future land use map. As noted, the Pruitt Commerce Center to the west has an adopted future land use map amendment. However, the effective date is on the horizon and has not yet been verified, so that map has not been transitioned. But the petition site before you this evening has split land use categories of commercial and residential urban, with the residential urban land use category surrounding to the northeast and east. As indicated previously, the city of Fort Pierce has been extending its territorial limits to the south of this site, as indicated in the blue diagonal hashing. And to the southwest, we have the Deserta portion of the land use category known as a special district, with a portion of it under that same approved land use for Pruitt Commerce Center for MXD. The proposed future land use designation for the site is mixed-use development with various sub-area policies, which we'll highlight momentarily. The MXD is intended for unique circumstances to apply where specific guidelines, regulations, and intensities can be and should be adapted to property. Of course, this site is situated along the expanded Kings Highway corridor, which is 4 lanes corridor leading to various state strategic intermodal system facilities in the Flores Turnpike to the south, as well as I-95 interchange at Okeechobee to the south, and of course Orange Avenue to the north. The proposed MXD district, specifically for the Fort Pierce Commerce Center activity area, looks to restrict uses equivalent to the industrial land use designation, provide that development occur through the plan development process, of course engage through a public hearing, planning process, stakeholder input, evaluation by staff, and an action by the Board of County Commissioners on that preliminary plan. Prescribes for open space buffering and environmental protections along the eastern portion of the property to serve both as buffering and protection to those established residential units, but also support a transition in the land use pattern. At the time of the prior transmittal, which which was approved by the Board of County Commissioners and input garnered from the state and reviewing agencies. At that time, the provision prescribed that access must be from Kings Highway. However, staff has proposed a revision to that based upon some updates related to that legacy easement, providing for an exception that limited non-commercial or non-industrial access may be considered through a recorded legacy easement existing prior to 1990. And the importance behind the 1990 date, of course, is the initial adoption of the county's comprehensive plan. That easement, as noted, has been well established for numerous decades and allows for the plus or minus 10-acre undeveloped residential parcel connection back to Copenhagen Road. And as noted, various homesteads situated to the east and southeast with this activity area seeking to provide for buffering and a development review process that allows for tactful integration of buffering, separation, and transitions. The current zoning for this petition site is split between the agricultural 1 and a residential 2 dwelling units per acre single-family district as displayed on screen, with a request to the planned non-residential development. It's noted traditionally where the county approves rezonings and preliminary plans and the city of Fort Pierce moves forward with annexation in the future, the city looks to honor those plans unless otherwise amended through a public hearing at the city level. Simply for context and a good understanding of the various development proposals in the vicinity, as we've discussed, we have the Pruitt Commerce Center that's been proposed to the west and south. We have the I-95 Logistics Center, which a portion of the building was raised after impacts from Hurricane Milton, but we still have a 250,000 square foot facility active toward the intersection of Orange and Kings Highway. We have the Kings Highway warehouse to the north of the site. And of course, Project Orchid recently approved off of Rock Road further to the northwest. And there are various flex industrial projects either approved or anticipated in the city of Fort Pierce limits further south. So here's a snapshot of the proposed preliminary development plan that would look to implement those guidelines established in the proposed land use. The overall site, as we noted, is just shy of 76 acres with a substantial preservation plan for the site, approximately 27% of the overall land area. Buildings proposed up to a total of 826,000 square feet amongst 3 different buildings as indicated in purple. Various impervious ratios anticipated to support access, parking, loading areas, and the overall stormwater system plan to support that impervious area to treat and process stormwater from the site. Within the preservation area, we have various wetland lands. They're prescribed buffers from our comprehensive plan policies and preservation of upland habitat, native trees, and understory. Where there are an exotic invasive species such as Australian pines or Brazilian pepper trees, through the site plan review process, any development permits issued, vegetation removal permits will require eradication and elimination of those invasive species, and where necessary, planting of native vegetation to help infill those preservation upland areas. The preliminary plan does also provide typical landscape sections where the preservation area is not serving as appropriate buffering. The applicant has displayed intent to highlight and meet land development code for those boundaries on the north and south and even along Kings Highway with a mixture of trees, shrubs, and as required by the code and applicable, an 8-foot tall opaque fence or wall. As displayed on the screen, and this is an item that's been restored since the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, is protection or observation of that legacy access easement, which is indicated in yellow, serving that residential property residentially zoned property to the north that is currently undeveloped, which would provide that property the ability to pursue any permissions through the county in the future to achieve lawfully needed access where it does not conflict with our zoning guidelines and wetland protection standards. Some key highlights regarding the comprehensive plan consistency where the MXD is adopted. This proposal provides flexibility while requiring this PNRD review. The property is adjacent to or within proximity of similar land use designations. Of course, it's within the county's urban service boundary along an expanding corridor with state and local investment. And compatibility is addressed through the preservation area, land conservation easement, building orientation, access limitations, buffering, and the recommended conditions of approval by staff. The anticipated trip generation upon a full build out of this project would be upwards of 1,360 daily trips. You might see a marginal decrease in that given a slight reduction in square footage, about 10,000 square feet since the site plan has been revised as part of your packet to accommodate that legacy easement. The southeastern building was trimmed marginally. Much of the traffic utilizing Kings Highway to access the SIS facilities that we spoke of. The trip distribution as presented puts greater series of trips to the south. Those are both employee and some of the potential truck or freight trips. But those distributions, of course, could change over time with new development. And as you may recall, as proposed with the Pruitt Commerce Center, there's the anticipation of a signalized intersection that would serve this project's driveway at Kings Highway and the Pruitt Commerce Center to the west upon a warrant analysis and need for that intersection. In the short term, there would be the potential to have limited directional access at the project entrance with the needs for various turn movements such as U-turns for passenger vehicles and even trucks in the event that they're not heading to I-95 to the north and need to head to the turnpike to the south and do not want to utilize alternative routes, want to remain on Kings Highway. As staff has highlighted, the intent to preserve and protect some of the environmental assets on the eastern portion of the property, again over a quarter of the property, to be preserved, both an upland habitat and preserved and restored wetland areas. Serving the transition from those residential areas, also help out overall with some of the stormwater protections in those areas. As we know, although there are larger lots to the east, it's not a master planned community. It doesn't have a master stormwater system. Therefore, many of the lands to the east capture stormwater and runoff on their own properties. The applicant submitted as part of their exhibits and background information noise assessment, sound assessment to analyze their building orientation and the election to place the loading docks and truck parking on the east side of that southeastern structure. They've highlighted through that assessment the ability to comply with the county's established noise ordinances across operations, provided that geographic separation and buffer that they're looking to retain on the eastern portion of the site. As part of staff's review from early on and input through the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, and of course this evening with the Board of County Commissioners, staff is recommending an alternative be prescribed for that southeastern building, which we'll highlight in a moment. But to set the stage, I've oriented this site plan with north up to the right, basically with Copenhagen on the bottom of your screen, looking at that portion of the site, displaying that there's over approximately 300 feet from the rear property lines, some of those large lot estates, to some of the activity areas for the Fort Pierce Commerce Center. The stormwater pond on the south side, over 200 linear feet, with some support buffering to help provide separation and dampening. but of course, staff's recommendation, as aligned with the standards of review for considering site plans, that any reasonable measures and design features can be integrated to avoid adverse effects on surrounding property. Therefore, it's our recommendation that the orientation of that building, the relocation of the employee parking be situated to the east, with loading activities on the west side of the building to allow the building to serve as additional separation and buffering from the residents further to the east. And also serving as some protections for those residential lots to the south. As noted, the Planning and Zoning Commission evaluated the collective petitions back in December of 2025, offering unanimous recommendations of approval to the Board of County Commissioners. Subsequently, the Board of County Commissioners transmitted the future land use map amendment on January 13th of this year. Following review and clearance from those state reviewing agencies with no objections. The only modification, as noted before you this evening, would allow for limited access to be pursued in the future for that undeveloped 10-plus acre piece to the north of the site over to Copenhagen, but this project would not have access through that easement area. Based upon consistency with the county's comprehensive plan and criteria for review, staff is recommending that the Board of County Commissioners approve Ordinance 2026-7, adopting this proposed future land use map amendment. Of course, holding a unique and exclusive hearing for that matter, but also upon action and approval of that ordinance, staff recommends that the board approve Resolution 2026-56, authorizing the zoning Atlas Amendment to Plan Non-Residential Development and the associated preliminary site plan with the wetland waiver with the following conditions. Finalized landscape plan to be provided with the final site plan. One note added, as deemed necessary to fulfill the Land Development Code's intent to provide adequate buffering between non-residential and residential uses. The final landscape plan may be required to integrate new tree and shrub plantings along the eastern boundary of the facility's vehicular use areas where the site plan modification referenced in condition of approval number 4, as I previously mentioned, flipping the building and loading of that southeastern structure. Where that's not imposed or adopted by the Board of County Commissioners, staff recommends that the final landscape plan shall also provide an 8-foot tall opaque fence or wall along that eastern boundary to help support visual buffering and noise dampening. Continuation of 2, some protections within the preserve area monitoring and management plan of that preservation easement discussed, except for where the county provides a limited use of that existing access easement area serving that abutting parcel. That the development site plan table be adjusted to specify the areas of wetland that will be preserved. 2, that prior to commencement of development and before clearing, that the final site plan provide that executed easement and PAMP over the preserve areas. That the ERP shall be provided to the county verifying the limits of the wetland. Of course, any updated listed species surveys. All Category 1 listed invasive plants be eradicated from the site prior to certificate of occupancy. That we revise the site plan for that southeastern building to relocate truck loading to the west facade. That any fence or wall behind the Samba Street properties be on the building or north side of that pond, as the applicant has updated their plan to adhere to. Any exterior lighting be downcast and shielded from adjacent residential properties to avoid hazardous interference. Identification that 10% of the parking is to be designated as reserved, utilizes green space unless needed and converted to paved parking. And a site development permit, of course, is required from the county prior to development activities. Thank you, Madam Chair. The applicant does have a presentation. Staff's available for any questions for both hearing items.
All right, excellent. Before I call the applicant up, any questions to staff? All right. Applicant, we are ready.
evening, Madam Chair, members of the County Commission. My name is Leslie Olson with District Planning Group. Thank you, Corey. Representing Hope Commercial Holdings for this Class A Commerce Park to be kind of in some ways, a companion to the Ashley Capital project across the street. So, as Corey mentioned, we've been at this for a minute, and I'm going to run through this quickly because Corey and his team did a fantastic job getting us through this process, walking through it with us. So we're going to skip a lot of this stuff. As you can see, originally the MXD map was to be MXD low for the entirety of the site. As we've moved through this and have identified the area to be preserved, staff has recommended that we hatch that differently, so that is incorporated into the MXD to which we agree, to show that that will be open space and buffering in perpetuity. And it also, in the sub-area policies, references that easement that we are dealing with there. It is consistent with the comprehensive plan, the change to MXD. It is within close proximity of other MXD properties. It is served by adequate public facilities. And as I'll go through a little bit more, we are seeing changing conditions in this area. This is within the Kings Highway Jobs Corridor area, which is being put together right now by the Economic Development Council to encourage the development of this area as a jobs corridor and to encourage high quality job creation in this area. And you can see that this site is within that core study area. It has fantastic access to the state's intermodal system, which is why the EDC identified it as a jobs corridor. The main entrance is within 1 mile to Orange and I-95 access, 1.7 miles to the Turnpike, and about 2.25 miles to the Okeechobee and I-95 access. So I wanted to take you through a little bit of the history. When this was identified as a site by this client, they were thinking the addition of large lot residential on the back end would be a good way to buffer this industrial site from the existing residential. So they proposed lots that were generally larger than those found on Copenhagen. We brought this to a neighborhood meeting at the Sunshine Kitchen with the neighbors, and they hated it. They didn't like this idea at all. And so we went back to our clients and said, how about we just preserve all of that back there? It's all environmentally sensitive land. It'll make a great buffer, and the residents really appreciated that. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback about doing that. It's just what I just said. So not only are we preserving this area, as Corey mentioned, our preserve area monitoring and maintenance and monitoring plan calls for not only the preservation of wetlands, but the creation of new wetlands. It calls for the preservation of existing high-quality native habitat, and for those areas where it's not high quality, it requires us to go in and plant high-quality native habitat and then maintain it in perpetuity. So we're creating about 1 acre of wetlands and restoring about 6 acres of upland habitat. You'll see there the easement that we've been talking about. We were originally going to take all of that and turn it into wetlands and uplands, but because of that original access easement that we were dealing with, that will change the numbers slightly upon final site plan. The neighbors interface on the south side. So Samba Road faces this project, Samba Street faces this project to the south. So we worked closely with staff to identify a way to ensure adequate buffering, since we didn't have the native buffering on that side. So you'll see here where that little guy is standing over on the left-hand side of your screen. That's the backyard of somebody at Samba. We have a heavy vegetated buffer, then about 200 feet of the pond, and then another heavy vegetated buffer, and then a wall on after that. So the people who live on Samba will be able to look over the lake and through the new landscape buffer, through the lake to another landscape buffer. So because we thought that would make a nicer backyard condition for them than just a wall. We really worked hard to work with the community, be responsive, environmentally responsive. We had a second neighborhood meeting after this. We got really good feedback when we took this to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And staff then too was recommending that we flip the building to minimize impacts. We actually had a neighbor come and say we don't need that, and the P&Z did not carry over that condition of approval as a recommendation because they felt like this was really the right way to do this. One of the reasons we have not supported the flip of the building that staff is wanting is because of the truck routing. Because of the way this is designed, we have all the trucks on their own route through the site and all the passenger cars on a different route. And we can't do that if we flip the building. So because we did the noise study, we did a sound study because of those concerns. Because we did the sound study and we found that there were no adverse impacts above and beyond what is established in the code, not even for nighttime. Like nothing actually gets to anybody's house over 55 decibels for the most part with this wall and with all of this buffering. We would like to keep this arrangement because we think it is a safer situation, and we think we have dotted all of our I's and crossed all of our T's to make sure that we are being responsive to those concerns. So there are two conditions that Corey mentioned that we would prefer to eliminate. One is the flipping of the building. The other is, if you don't flip the building, put a wall along where the wetland and basically between the truck court, the wetland, and the preserve area. We can, but the sound study doesn't show that we need it, and the neighbors didn't ask for it. And one of the things that staff focuses on, and I think it's admirable and a good thing, is that you want to think about the experience of working in a place like this. And one of the really lovely things about this site is that if you're working back there, you actually have a really beautiful place to look over. You've got wetlands. There are no visual impacts. You will not be able to see through this preserve. So we don't have visual impacts. We really don't have noise impacts. So I'd rather not put a wall there. But so other than that, we are happy with everything that has been suggested, and we are available for your questions. Let me just make sure. Yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you. Come back to the board for a moment. Any questions, comments?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lee?
can you explain the last statement that you said about the wall? Which wall are you talking about, on the south side?
Yeah, okay. So where the blue and the green is, right there so we already have a wall on the south side, and that is exactly where Corey is pointing right there. What he is suggesting is that wall continue up the east side to eliminate additional noise and potentially visual issues. I think it's not necessary, and I kind of like the ability, since this owner has to maintain all of that in perpetuity and keep all of that in its native habitat. It would be nice for them to be able to enjoy the visual of it as well.
Okay. There's no other.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Clausby.
I forgot I needed to also disclose that I've attended the Kings Highway corridor meetings, and I've spoken with some people from the EDC regarding projects on Kings Highway. This is definitely part of a much larger investment to the area. But other than that, the wall on the outside, I mean, the public would like to see those nice things too, though. So I kind of, either way on that, the wall's obviously expensive. The flip of the building, and you're saying that the noise won't travel, the neighbor didn't mind. Can you explain why exactly you'd prefer it that way? I mean, I think I've heard there's some conflicts with vehicles.
Right. So the way this is designed is that the passenger vehicles, people going to the office and people coming in their passenger vehicles to work, will be completely separated from the trucks traversing the site. And so if we flip the building, we will have to mix them. So we do think it is a safer condition to do it this way. You will also see, from an aesthetic perspective, you will also see this building from Kings Highway. Not nearly as much as you will see the two front buildings, but you will see this third eastern building from Kings Highway. If we flip it, what you're going to see is the back of the building. You're going to see the back side, not the prettier side. So there are, there are trade-offs no matter which way we go on this. And so I think there are good reasons to keep it like it is. But if it is this board's direction for us to flip this, we will do so.
Madam Chair. Corey, what was your reasoning for wanting to flip the building?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Clasby, I think it was out of precaution. The original design showed the loading on the west side, and staff was quite supportive, of the approach to transition from the residential land use category to this flex MXD, where the prescribed buffer was in place and then reasonable design features and approaches. The consumer-related traffic, or when I say consumer traffic, passenger vehicles, employees coming to and from the site, engines are typically not as loud. They don't have the potential for large refrigeration devices. They don't have the OSHA prescribed backup beeping. So it was out of abundance of caution, independent of the sound assessment. In the event that we have a cold snap and some of the trees die in that preservation area, or over time, some of the native vegetation diminishes. The design of the building is very much long-lasting, and to avoid a scenario in which a multi-million-dollar facility is constructed, operational, and 2 months in, we started garnering complaints from residents in the area. We were trying to utilize one of the standards of review, 110207B2. All reasonable steps have been taken to minimize any adverse effect of the building or use on the immediate vicinity through building design, site design, landscaping, and screening. So it was more out of the precautionary principle.
So I'm kind of just, looking at it, and there's a RS2 zone property. Is that to the north?
That is correct, Commissioner.
What sort of buffering, density transition is there?
Certainly a good question, and something considered, especially with the transition. So today that site has some legacy ag activities. There's been no development. Of course, tomorrow they could propose a single-family residence. Because it's a non-conforming lot of record, they would be limited to a single residence. The buffering that's planned on the north side would be the preservation of that 60-foot easement that this property owner holds, as well as the installation of an 8-foot tall opaque fence or wall, landscape hedge on both sides, and trees strategically placed on both sides. So not the same geography, but also not some of the same activities. This property owner, when we learned about the easement, discussed what their potential uses would be in the future. That's when the applicant's team and staff discussed replacing that access easement to eliminate any connections to Copenhagen and allowing traffic from a future use of this site to traverse to and from Kings Highway. We understand there was a tentative arrangement in place and that fizzled. So the protection of that easement has been explored and provided for in the most recent plan. But at that time, we anticipated that that property owner might pursue some limited commercial uses, office commercial, contractor trade, something that utilized and needed access to Kings Highway. Therefore, we didn't look for a more robust buffer. from that
What does
site.
the code require between, a site like this and a residentially zoned property?
The minimum is a 10-foot wide landscape buffer with an 8-foot tall fence or wall with landscaping on both sides of it.
And that's what they're providing?
That's correct.
And, that there's like, rays of, dBA sound waves from the point sources. Does this image display that there's a point source, near that building, but there's no, dBAs coming off of it? Is that accurately displayed?
It's my interpretation of this, and I am no sound engineer, but it is my interpretation of this that this is showing the most critical portion, which is adjacent to Samba. So they're showing what would happen if you had loud noises at that bay.
Okay. Well, I have to assume that that building's all loading bays, most likely, right?
Yes.
So we could assume that those noise, cones probably are the same at the top end of the building.
Right.
Would they go into that RS2 property is kind of what I'm getting at?
This does not show that, but it would basically, you need to be in the darker orange in order to be hitting the decibels that are inappropriate for residential under the county's code. So they'll hear something, but it's not likely they're going to meet the noise levels that are identified in the code.
And, flipping the building doesn't really help that property.
Right, because you have the building on the north end as well that's adjacent.
Mm-hmm. And the buffer is the same there as well for a noise buffer is the
Yes,
same
sir.
on all sides of that? Okay.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lowry?
you finish? Quick question, Leslie. On the neighborhood meeting, did you say approximately the majority of residents were there?
We had a lot
Okay.
at the first neighborhood meeting. We were at the Sunshine Kitchen, and it was there were a lot of folks because they weren't sure what it was yet, and what they were really concerned about at that meeting was that it was going to be residential. Once they learned it was going to be industrial, and we had a responsive developer, they were actually trying to help us figure out how to buy that parcel. So. Yeah, we had a number of people there, and we got their email addresses and then followed up and did another Zoom neighborhood meeting following.
Okay, I was asking because for me, we'd want to take in the residents' concern,
Right.
most importantly, because they're the ones living there and,
Yes.
and dealing with it. As far as flipping the building, if that doesn't really make much of a difference for them, then I can totally understand engineering and the use of space being kept the way it is, how you have in the plans. So that doesn't concern me. And as far as the wall, is there something that if down the road, if noise does become an issue, that can be something that's revisited?
We could, I think that would be a fine condition of approval, that if noise complaints are received and they are exceeding the county code's allowed decibel levels at the property line for residential uses, then it could be required to install a wall. I think that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a public hearing item, so I'm going to go ahead and for item A1, which is the future land use map amendment, anyone wishing to address the board on this item, please come to the podium. Seeing no movement, I'm going to close public comment and come back to the board.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Busby?
So I like Commissioner Lowry's thought of having the condition in there that if it exceeds a certain level or a certain number of complaints, that they would have to install a masonry wall of some sort. How would we word that into a condition? Is there standard language for something like that? Madam Chair, Commissioners, I believe that's for the second item.
Yeah, I was going to say this is just the flume, so we would do those comments for the next one.
All right. I'm motion for approval with staff's recommendation,
And I'll second that.
All right, so there's.
minus the flip.
So this is just the future land use map amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, with that, we're going to go into the rezoning and the preliminary plan. Also, public hearing item, so I'm going to open it up to the public. Anyone wishing to address us on this portion of the plan? Seeing no movement, I'm going to come back to the board. Ooh, so sorry.
No worries.
Good evening.
Good evening. How y'all doing? Justin Harrison. So I would just say with that area there on Samba, I grew up in that area as well. A lot of family on that Copenhagen Samba section. It can get wet over there during the rainy season, so making sure that whatever they are doing with the development, that they're mindful of what's going on with the water, because one of the things that Corey said is it's an older community. They don't have a stormwater plan there, so making sure that whatever is done is not displacing additional water, into that neighborhood, or possibly even assisting them on getting some of that water out of there and doing this overall master plan. I think that would be something that that community would be very beneficial on and appreciative, and possibly maybe even ignore some of the sound issues if you help with some of that water that they have in there. But I think that the sound and the water issues with it is probably going to be your two biggest concerns of that community. So I just say, keep that in mind. I think it's a good area to keep, what we have going on in that corridor with the commercial aspect of things and the industrial, with the aspect of 95 and the Turnpike right there off of the Kings Highway corridor. But we do still have some of the older communities that are still having to live with it. So just keep those two things in mind with it, I'd say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no movement, I close public comment and come back to the board. I will say really quick, Corey, can you just pull up a picture of the site plan real quick? Maybe the one that has the red marks on it. There. Like appendix, one of the appendices. Oh, okay. So even if we were to flip the building, it wouldn't, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Leslie, if the loading was moved from the east side back over to the west side, we would still have loading along the southern portion of that building in the same proximity as it is currently on the east side. Is that accurate? It would
Yes.
just be flipped.
Right.
So instead of it being so distance doesn't change if the building gets flipped, in other words.
Right. It doesn't protect Samba any differently if you flip it. That's an excellent point.
Got it. All right, so, again, the four of us, or the five of us, but four of us here tonight, we sit in these seats, we're here part of the meetings, whether it's Fort Pierce Jobs Corridor, EDC. We know down in Port St. Lucie that Jobs Corridor is filled up, and we know that we've been eyeing Kings Highway as the next expansion for a Jobs Corridor. This is in the USB. It is Kings Highway. It really, in my opinion, is no longer appropriate for residential. It is a highway filled with tractor trailer after tractor trailer. And rightfully so. It's part of the interstate system, and as it's been pointed out several times, it's got access to 3 points, 2 on 95, 1 on the Turnpike. I mean, you couldn't ask for having trucks coming in and out a better location between Okeechobee and Orange. Future annexation into the city of Fort Pierce, FPUA territory. So I would be okay, given the fact that changing the disposition of the building doesn't make anything better for the residents in Samba. With that in mind, I would not have an issue supporting its current configuration that the applicant is proposing, with the caveat that Commissioner Lowry brought up of if we receive complaints along the fence line that exceed that noise level allowed by our code, that we would revisit and have some sort of wall or enhanced forest effect, what have you, something to address those issues.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Crosby.
I just wanted to address Justin's question there about the stormwater. I mean, this property is going to have a wet pond and dry detention. Do
Yes.
any of those help the surrounding properties?
Well, so there is a wetland of low quality that we are eliminating, actually. And when we create this developed area, we have to now keep all of that water on our site. And so I think it will probably be, of course, we will meet South Florida standards, which means that we have to treat the water on our site. And so that will help. The other thing that I think the change that could happen here that would be beneficial to Samba and Copenhagen is that because right now it sheet flows to the east, since we're developing it, that is a portion that will not sheet flow to the east and to the south. So I think that it will definitely not get worse, and there's a good chance it will get somewhat better.
Okay.
Yep. And actually, thank you. I made a note and forgot to bring it up. The wetlands on here, so for every acre of wetland, it filters 1 million gallons of water. So the fact that there is all this preserved natural area for the water to percolate, the wetlands to do their job, I think the folks around this vicinity will probably see potentially improved stormwater. All right, so if there's no other conversation, I will entertain a motion for item 12A2. Commissioner Lowry, would you like to make the motion?
Sure. Motion to approve
With
condition of revisiting a possible wall if we have an abundance of noise complaints down the road once we're officially built out.
Perfect.
And I'll second that.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. Could we make it specific to if the noise levels are beyond the county code?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Maybe we look to Maite real quick.
It might be recommended that you include a number or a time frame. Abundance is up to interpretation, so I don't know if you want to have a certain number exceeded from residential properties, providing complaints, just so that we have something to work against.
Mr. Raines?
Yeah, good evening. For the record, Bob Raines here on behalf of the applicant. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think we just don't want to have complaints. I think if we exceed the noise levels, then I think that's warrants, the wall. I think the condition's fine, but it should be if we exceed the noise levels in the code.
Okay.
Simply that. And is that?
Is that?
But how many in what period of time is really what Maite is trying to define. Do you want to do if you have more than 3 in a 3-month period or 6-month period, or if you have more than 5 in a year? What is the threshold of what is the comfort level of the board?
Well, I think too, it depends whether or not you have tenants in there actively working as well, so.
I think it'd be from, 3 in a, 3-month period from adjacent property residents or property owners.
I'm sorry, what was the?
Yeah, you want to make
That
sure that
seems-
the complaints would be coming from the actual
Right
people
there,
that are
yeah.
near it. And then I'm not sure what number or time period would be reasonable on that as well.
So you're okay with 3 and 3 months?
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
No, I sort of agree with Mr. Raines as far as not putting a time limit on it, because things could change and it could be a year down the road and all of a sudden we've got a whole bunch of semis going in and out of there with the beepers and the sounds frequencies increased, and we would like to take care of it at some point. I think the point that you're making is, where do we draw that line that we say, is it 1 resident, is it 2? How do we define that?
Yeah.
But also it shouldn't just be like some random person on Becker
Right,
Road.
right.
making-
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think it's a little tricky because, on any given night, there might be something or a one-off kind of thing. So that's where I get a little bit concerned. So I think something about a 3 or 4 in a 6-month period, or something that shows some frequency would be the issue. Yeah,
And meets the
And
county's
the county's
requirements for, exceeds the county's requirements for noise at a residential property line.
I mean, in my opinion, I have 6 months in my head. I don't know how everyone else feels.
Could we, if we get a complaint, just ask to monitor it for 6 months, and if it exceeds, then enforce the wall?
I mean, you're welcome to make any recommendation here.
And just know it's a running 6 months, so it doesn't mean that it's the first 6 months. It could be at any 6 months while the building's in existence, so it goes on for the for the lifespan of that commercial property.
So to that point, Mr. Lander's point would be, so in July, if you had a complaint, then for the next 6 months, you can't have 2 more complaints or whatever.
Correct.
That's the way I think.
If
Is
you
that
get that, then we'll
that
have to address the wall.
kind of a rolling 6-month
Right.
sort of thing? So as long as we don't have any complaints, we're good. As soon as we get one, we can't have 2 more for a 6-month period. I think that seems fair.
Okay.
Okay, so
I mean, I'm comfortable with that. There's got to be a little bit of give and take
Yeah.
there, so.
I agree.
Does that work for everyone?
I'm good.
Okay. Do we need to clarify the motion?
Yes, please. Trying to write it.
All right, so we have made a motion to approve the PNRD rezoning and preliminary plan, allowing the building to stay in its current configuration with the caveat, and no wall required on the east side, with the caveat that there are no reports, well,
No, could I make?
no sound violations
No more
per
than
the
3.
code.
No more than 3 sound violations during a 6-month period.
Yeah.
I think
Perfect.
does that sound like what we were talking about?
Yes, sir.
Exceeding the county's, yeah.
All right, so we've got a motion.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very
All
much.
right,
Appreciate
thank you
it.
for helping clarify.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right. So the next one coming up is requesting a continuance. This is 322 and 340 Kitterman. We will still, however, just do our disclosures. Commissioner Clasby?
I've spoken with members of the general public, staff, and the applicant.
Commissioner Lowry?
Ben and Corey and applicant going over the site plan and project.
I've also watched the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting as well.
So I have met with Jared Purser and others of WGI. I've met with the property owner. I've met with our planning and development staff, and also viewed the planning and zoning.
And I've met with staff and the applicant at WGI.
Okay, being that this item has been continued, I am going to go ahead and quickly open it up to public hearing. Anyone wishing to address us on this item that may not be available on June 2nd? Seeing no movement, I'm going to close public comment. And is there a motion to continue per staff's recommendation?
Madam Chair, before we do that, I'd just like to share the commentary that I shared with the applicant.
Okay.
As the board knows, I usually have certain comments about townhouses, number of townhouses linked, things like that. In the past, I've suggested that we change our zoning code to clarify how many can be connected and that sort of thing. We can't do it because of certain Senate Bill 180s currently in effect, but I did ask them if they could look to try to separate a couple of the buildings to have, maybe a couple 4 townhouse units. That way you could have more separation, perhaps a couple less units. But overall, the project looked pretty nice, I thought.
All right, well, I appreciate your comments, thank you. So with that, is there a motion from the board to continue per the applicant's request?
Motion to continue.
To June 2nd.
June 2nd.
All right, so we have a motion to continue to June 2nd at 6 p.m. or soon thereafter. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll see you guys June 2nd. Next items 4, 5, and 6 are the same exact scenario. I'm going to open them up to public hearings, open them up to the public. So we have Sunnyland Farms, the proposed amendment of the official zoning atlas. We have Sunnyland 44, the proposed future land use map amendment. And Sunnyland 44, the proposed amendment of the official zoning atlas and preliminary development plan. Applicant has also requested a continuance to June 2nd. I'm going to open this up for disclosures. Commissioner Clasby.
I've spoke with staff and the applicant. I attended the Project Orchid neighborhood meeting and heard some commentary regarding how that project affects this one.
Okay. Commissioner Lowry.
Staff, Ben and Corey, and applicant.
And I have Brian Nolan with Lucido and Associates, applicant, and Ben and Corey with planning.
Staff, Ben and Corey, and applicant.
All right. So again, I'm going to open this up. Sunnyland 44, the proposed official zoning atlas and preliminary development plan. Anyone that's not able to be here on June 2nd that would like to address the board on this item? Seeing no movement, I'm going to come back to the board. Is there a motion for the continuance?
Motion to continue.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to continue to June 2nd or soon thereafter at 6 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Proposed future land use map amendment for Sunnyland 44. Anyone from the public wishing to address us on this item that is not able to be here on June 2nd? Seeing no movement, I'm going to close and come back to the board. Is there a motion for continuance?
Motion for continuance.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor to continue to June 2nd at 6 p.m. or soon thereafter?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, last one, Sunnyland 44, a proposed amendment of the official zoning atlas and preliminary development plan. Anyone from the public wishing to address the board? Seeing no movement, I'm going to come back to the board. Is there a motion for continuance?
Motion to continue to June 2nd at 6 p.m. or soon thereafter.
Motion and a second from
Second.
Commissioner Lee. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, and with that, we go right into White Marsh conditional use permit. And just for the board's information, it's in conjunction with the regular agenda item 13A1. Good evening. Commissioner Clasby, disclosures, please, sir.
Yes, I've spoke with residents in the surrounding area, staff, and the applicant.
Commissioner Lowry.
Staff, Ben and Corey, and Mr. McCarty regarding any questions or concerns.
Yeah, I also have spoken with planning and development staff as well as Mike McCarty.
Staff and Ms. McCarty.
All right, floor is yours.
Good evening, Chair Fowler. My name is Tom Reitz, planner with the St. Lucie County Planning and Development Services Department. The applicant is proposing stormwater facilities within individual lots and replacing the approved common stormwater tract with an additional UTC utility contractor lot. Per the St. Lucie County Land Development Code Section 110705E, the modification of the stormwater tract with the addition of the UTC lot requires a modification to the originally approved conditional use permit. Public notice has been provided in the form of one single-sided sign being posted along Shin Road. An ad has been published in the local newspaper and an informational mailer sent to neighbors within 1,000 feet of the four corners of the property. In accordance with Land Development Code Section 110201, the applicant and representative held a neighborhood meeting at 3500 Shin Road on Tuesday, April 21st, 2026, to share details of the subject proposal. One neighboring property owner attended and indicated he was not opposed to the request for the major adjustment to the approved conditional use permit. Property is located on the east side of Shin Road, approximately 1.5 miles north of Okeechobee Road. The 87-acre subject parcel is located outside of the urban service boundary within the rural agricultural area of central St. Lucie County and utility trade contractor businesses with appropriate location, design, and operation standards compatible with agricultural operations. once again, the 87-acre subject parcel is located outside of the urban service boundary. It's zoned AG5, agricultural 5 dwelling units per acre, and designated within the AG5 agricultural future land use category. The conditional use permit and major site plan includes the approved plans include the construction of a private road with cul-de-sac to access the 6 lots. Currently, the existing driveway exceeds the maximum width requirements and will be corrected. The lots range in area from approximately 7.9 acres to 19 acres. There are currently 4 buildings on the site, a 1,020 square foot single-family building, a 2,000 square foot garage, a 6,800 square foot warehouse on existing lot number 2, and a 5,000 square foot office building on proposed lot number 4. The original proposal included 3 additional 12,000 square foot buildings with covered bays and offices similar in size and designs on lots 1, 3, and 5. Lot number 2, not part of this application, is 7.87 acres, and as I said, as mentioned, not a part of the approved conditional use area. And if you notice, lot 6 was approved, designated completely for central stormwater. The proposed conditional use permit with major site plan proposes providing stormwater facilities within individual lots highlighted in blue, replacing the approved common stormwater tract with an additional utility contractor's lot shown in orange. Major adjustments considered by staff to be in substantial conformity with the original approval may bypass the Planning and Zoning Commission for a hearing in front of you tonight. The conditional use permit and major site plan proposal includes littoral plantings at the wet retention areas of the individual lots and 30 feet of enhanced perimeter landscape buffer at the additional utility contractor lot. The proposed conditional use permit major adjustment proposes various areas for primary and reserved paved parking. The storage areas as unpaved but stabilized. The storage areas as unpaved but stabilized surfaces. Required landscaping is applicable and primary to the secondary parking areas. Standards of review in accordance with Land Development Code 7.1008 and 11.0703, staff has reviewed the petition to ensure the conditional use does not have any negative effects on the environment or adjacent properties, has adequate public facilities and fire protection, and is consistent with the Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan. There were 2 response forms received from property owners in favor of the adjustment to the conditional use permit. There were no responses received that were not in favor. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners approve the major adjustment to the conditional use permit and the associated major adjustment to the major site plan, allowing for the modification of the stormwater tract with the addition of the UTC lot. Consider any reasonable conditions, including those recommended by staff, and adopt Resolution 2026-86 and Resolution 2026-90, and authorize the chair to sign documents as approved by the county attorney. I do want to note one condition was modified, highlighted in blue, and this was simply due to an updated traffic analysis that was received that incorporated additional and collective square footage for the proposed, and it is being reviewed by the county's consulting engineer. The revised condition allows any recommended improvements to be incorporated into the site development permit plans and completed or secured prior to the issuance of a CO or a certificate of zoning compliance. With that concludes staff's presentation.
All right, thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation, or would they like to say anything? Good evening.
Good evening, commissioners. How are you? Appreciate your time. Mike McCarty for the record with McCarty Land Planning and Design. A little bit of context and background here. So when this was originally approved back in February of 2024, we had a commitment with the tenant, who's Pike. They were in a hurry, wanted to gobble up the whole site, some restructuring internally, and this was a use that's allowed under the conditional use text amendment that was approved some years ago, and offering uses different from agriculture, but allowing us to try to find uses that are compatible in our ag areas, but generating job creation. So back then we had Pike moving forward, and they were in a hurry to occupy this property, and so we designed it with that intent. There was some restructuring that occurred, and they need a more incremental approach to phasing into the site, and so we had to retool it and adjust some of those ponds so that an individual lot could be CO'd versus coming in and having to excavate this massive pond in the front end and them only occupying one lot. So that's the reason behind the request that's before you. I do have Mr. Pantuso here. He's a great guy and been an agricultural operator here in St. Lucie County for quite some time, and he's here if you have any questions. But that's the gist of our reason for modifying the conditional use in the major site plan. We appreciate it.
Thank you. This is a public hearing item. Open it up to the public. Anyone wanting to address us on this item? Seeing no movement, we can close public comment, come back to the board.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Clasby.
I think that this is it's a better use of the space on the property. I motion for approval.
And I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going to do the regular agenda item that goes with it, the 13A1. That major adjustment. And this is a regular agenda item. Any comments, questions from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
It says it's quasi-judicial on the...
Oh, thank you. Yes, if you can.
I've met with staff and the applicant.
Disclosure same.
I am the same, Mike McCarty, and our planning staff.
Staff applicant, Mr. McCarty.
All right.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Thank you. All right. Now we go into Project Orchid. Also quasi-judicial. Commissioner Clasby.
Yes, I've spoke with staff, the applicant, members of the public. I've attended the neighborhood meeting. I've watched the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Commissioner Lally?
Ben and Corey, staff, applicant, Wes McCurry, EDC, talked about everything and the economic value it's going to bring to St. Lucie County.
I also have spoken with Katie and Knight, Wes McCurry with EDC, the applicant team, and watched Planning and Zoning, and of course met with our Planning and Developments team.
And I the same. I met with staff and the EDC. If you'd like, I'll list the names: Andrea Zambrero, Janine Valentine, Andrew Sinelli, Ted Elon, Unique Virgo, Patty Tobin, Gideon Knight, and Wes McCurdy.
Madam Chair, I've also met with the EDC as well.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby. All right, Corey.
Thank you again, Madam Chair, members of the board. Before you is the second reading of the First Amendment proposed to the St. Lucie Commerce Center Development Agreement, further to be known as the Project Orchid Development Agreement. Planning staff is coordinated across our Development Review Committee with essential staff highlighted and many more supporting evaluation of this. The public hearing this evening was adequately noticed with a display ad in the local newspaper, and notice was, of course, provided at the first reading back for May 5th as well. Today, the St. Lucie Commerce Center Development Agreement covers roughly 94.25 acres of land at the northern portion of Rock Road, beyond Orange Avenue, south of Interstate I-95. There's a single parcel to be removed that would retract the acreage to just over 85 acres for the land sought for acquisition for Project Orchid, 2 parcels straddling the extension of Rock Road, or known as the Access Road. Here's an aerial displaying those 2 parcels. Parcel 1 onto the south and Parcel 2, the smaller parcel to the north, with the predominance of the development slated and approved for Parcel 1, with some support activities anticipated for Parcel 2 to help fulfill the overall development of the project. Here's simply a snapshot of the previous site plan linked to the development agreement, which has since been overhauled with the board's action on May 5th to approve the Project Orchid site plan, conditional use, and adopt the land use map amendment and rezoning. Some quick highlights. As previously discussed, the active development agreement was established in September of 2013, covering the complete 94.26 acres with an initial period of 10 years, extended via state EDO, with a variety of flex industrial activities possible. With the proposed refined and adjusted amendment embracing the area zone, both industrial light and industrial heavy, providing for a new 10-year term with the opportunity to extend one time for up to 5 years, providing for that 1.4 million square feet as providing the approved site plan, with portions of the property with a maximum height up to 80 feet. Of course, the approved master site and landscape plan merged with this development agreement, and the associated on-site and off-site improvements. As we saw at our May 5th meeting, the variety of petitions that the Board of County Commissioners held public hearings on and authorized with this bundle being merged to the adjusted development agreement. With regards to the transportation improvements, and a couple key highlights between the board's first reading of this adjustment to the second reading, the applicant and staff coordinated on some light refining of the content of this proposed amendment, and we've had strong negotiations on some of those final details, and the applicant is supportive of the presented staff draft with very minor adjustments, and we'll highlight some of those. But the transportation improvements predicated on 2 primary options, leading 1, constructing said improvements, or 2, providing proportionate share payments to the county for the purposes of such improvements at the election of county, except where subject to the developer's best efforts within the time frame set forth. One of the new concepts within the revised iteration of the development agreement is linking many of those time frames for the transportation improvements to a time period prior to issuance of the first certificate of occupancy, following which manufacturing operations, which are considered full activities that are non-testing, non-training. Oftentimes when we have large-scale facilities like this, they'll complete the building, they'll be refining and bringing in equipment, working with different facets of their employment base for training and pre-manufacturing prep, testing the foundry, testing ventilation systems, you name it, gearing up for the full activities of the complex. And so the intent is to allow them to be placing the finishing touches on their buildings, their equipment, and prepping staff before those full manufacturing operations commence, while they're wrapping up some of the off-site improvements serving the facility. There is an additional line that's been authored and presented that the county administrator, after receiving a written request by the developer and a recommendation from the county engineer, may extend the timelines for the off-site transportation or traffic improvements, providing above by up to 120 days. So in the scenario that we have active roadway improvements that have commenced, the buildings closing in on full completion with equipment ready to go, and employees are ready to report for day one for activities, and we understand and receive written guidance that some of the final paving, closeout of the off-site improvements need a little bit more time. The applicant may request through the county administrator and county engineer an additional allotment of time. You know, sometimes during construction activities, I won't mention any particulars out there in the community. Sometimes we have slight delays in roadway improvements. This would provide a small period of additional time and flexibility should it be requested and presented appropriately. Full detail as presented in the draft agreement related to the developer's best efforts to pursue and seek to acquire right-of-way needs for that commercial parcel on the north side of Orange Avenue between Rock Road and Kings Highway, with a particular timeline in which they would formulate and distribute documentation seeking that acquisition and purchase relating to fair market value and covering essential costs up to 150% of that appraised value. Where they're not able to acquire that right-of-way on behalf of the county to participate in these roadway improvements, a modified roadway design would be pursued, and where certain capacity-related improvements are not achieved, we would seek that proportionate share contribution from this development to allow for those improvements in the future or other offsetting improvements. And the variety of transportation improvements previously presented remain, including enhancements to the intersection at Rock Road and Orange Avenue, paved improvements to Rock Road through the project's entrance on the east side of the facility and north side, the two-lane eastbound improvements to Orange Avenue from Rock Road east to Kings, and then the goals of providing the two westbound lanes for Orange Avenue from Kings Highway west to Rock Road, as well as a northbound right turn lane from Orange Avenue onto Rock Road, and a signal at that intersection as warranted. Of course, the right-of-way, that potential impediment being the challenge to that second westbound lane for Orange Avenue. As we're currently provided in the development agreement to be replaced, we've provided conceptual exhibits highlighting the various stages and improvements for Orange Avenue, Rock Road, and the intersection serving both of those segments. And then, of course, preliminary design for Rock Road on the northern portion, accessing the eastern side of the project, complete with designated turn lanes. Staff recommends that the board evaluate the proposed adjustments to this development agreement, explore any content between the applicant and staff, and approve the first amendment as presented in staff's draft with those refinements highlighted this evening.
Thank you, Corey. Does the applicant? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Kristen Spake of the Gunster Law Firm on behalf of the applicant. just briefly want to say thank you to staff for their very, very hard work. We appreciate that, and we appreciate that we were able to present a DA that both sides can support, and the development team is here. We're happy to answer any questions that might come up.
Perfect, thank you. This is a public hearing item. Anyone wishing to address the board on this item? Seeing no movement, close public comment and come back to the board for discussion or a motion.
Motion for approval.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Have a good night. Now we're going to go into number 9, the revocation of ad valorem tax exemption for Excel International. Good evening, Ben.
Good evening.
Again, good evening, Chair Fowler and Commissioners. Ben Balser, Planning and Development Services Director. For the record, agenda item 12A9 is ordinance number 2026-15, which revokes the ad valorem tax exemption ordinance previously granted to Excel International Holdings Incorporated. By way of background, in 2018, the board approved an economic incentive resolution for Excel, making the company eligible for a job growth investment grant and an ad valorem tax exemption in connection with a proposed 150,000 square foot manufacturing and distribution facility in Port St. Lucie. In 2021, the board approved a job growth investment grant agreement for the creation of 125 new jobs over a 4-year period. That job creation schedule was amended several times between 2022 and 2024 due to certain project delays, and it was also revised. They did revise their performance timelines, most recently in 2024. They shifted the job creation obligations into a 3-year schedule, and they also reduced their year 1 requirement. Also in 2024, the board approved a 10-year ad valorem tax exemption ordinance providing for 100% of an exemption for the first 5 years, followed by reduced exemption levels in year 6 through 10. Excel met their year 1 job creation requirement of 18 jobs in the first year and received their incentive benefit. However, through the company's required annual reporting, staff became aware that Excel did not meet the additional 44 jobs required for their next reporting period. At the March 10th, 2026 informal board meeting, staff was directed to terminate the existing incentive agreements and allow the company to renegotiate or reapply under the county's updated economic incentive criteria. And on April 24th, 2026, Excel submitted a letter supporting termination of the existing ad valorem exemption. And tonight, staff is recommending the board adopt ordinance 2026-15, revoking Excel's ad valorem exemption, while also allowing the company to reapply for incentives in the future if it chooses to do so. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ben. This is a public hearing item. Anyone wishing to address the board? Seeing no movement, close public comment and come back to the board.
Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry.
Madam Chair, before we do the public comment, I just want to clarify, this is something that everybody sitting on this board right now definitely was in agreement with that. We gave them some leniency even before I was on the board. But at some point you have to figure out if the benefit that they were getting was comparable to what they're providing with the contract that they were in, and they weren't. So part of this, we're revising the incentive program to make it more difficult to get it, but also to have lower tiers that they may qualify for that's not the full benefit. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Justin Harrison here again.
Yes, sir.
Honestly, that's one of the things that I was going to say is, rather than giving these tax incentives right up front without them actually performing, we need to figure out a way of actually holding them accountable so we don't have these big buildings and things built in our county and we giving them incentives to build here, but then them falling short after it's all done, right, is kind of a black eye on our county at the end of the day. So, maybe there's a way of saying, hey, you guys got to pay the taxes until you fulfill what your obligations are. Once you fulfill that, then you can start going into some kind of a tax abatement or something of that nature. Because, I mean, ultimately, we do need to get more jobs and more things into our county. But ultimately, this is where we get lower homestead property taxes, right? Like, this is where we're going to offset what's coming in the near future are these big commercial properties. And if we're giving them all the property tax incentives, then it's back on the homeowners. And if it's back on the homeowners and we got the scale coming soon, we're just asking for more disasters. So we need to be mindful about this. So I'm thankful that we're definitely scaling back on this. But in the future, I think there definitely needs to be some thought process on how we're going to structure these tax incentives.
You're here on the right night, so stay tuned. We're getting there. But yes, so as Ben pointed out, several of these companies that weren't meeting the expectation, weren't meeting the criteria, staff presented them to us. This board unanimously decided cancel, time to revisit. I know all of us, since we've been on the board, have advocated for higher wages, not an automatic carte blanche of here you go, you get everything right out of the gate. And so, yeah, we're definitely looking for more accountability, higher wages, more impact to the community. So, all good stuff. With that, is there a motion?
I have motion for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next one.
And good evening again, Chair Fowler and Commissioners. Similarly, agenda item 12A10 is ordinance number 2026-16. And if adopted, it would revoke the ad valorem tax exemption previously granted to A1 Industries of Florida. In 2020, the board approved an economic incentive resolution for A1 Industries, making the company eligible for a job growth investment grant, impact fee mitigation, and ad valorem tax exemption. In 2021, the board approved a job growth investment grant agreement for the creation of 28 new jobs over a one-year period. A1 met its job creation commitment in 2021 and again in 2022 and received a job growth investment grant award totaling $46,200 for those years. In 2024, the board approved a 6-year ad valorem tax exemption ordinance for the company. The exemption scheduled provided for a 100% exemption in year one, followed by a 90%, 80%, 60%, 40%, and 20% over the remaining years. A1 received the 100% exemption for year one and the 90% exemption for year two. However, the company's 2026 annual report shows that A1 currently has only maintained 22 of the required 28 jobs. At the March 10th, 2026 informal board meeting, staff was directed to terminate the existing incentive agreements and allow the company to renegotiate or reapply under the county's updated economic incentive criteria. Because the company is no longer meeting the required job commitment, staff is recommending that the board adopt ordinance 2026-16, revoking their ad valorem tax exemption. Staff also recommends that A1 should be allowed to reapply for the incentives in the future under the county's revised economic incentive criteria if they choose to do so. And with that, I'm here for any questions.
All right, thank you, Ben. This too is a public hearing item. Anyone wishing to address the board? Seeing no movement, I'm going to close public comment, come back to the board for a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. And last public hearing item, Economic Development Impact Fee Mitigation Program.
So again, Chair Fowler and Commissioners, Ben Balser, Planning and Development Services Director for the record, and tonight I'm presenting one consolidated presentation to overview the county's proposed economic incentive updates. As you briefly touched on earlier, the presentation covers the revised Job Growth Investment Grant Program, the new scoring matrix and application, the ad valorem tax exemption program updates, and the impact fee mitigation ordinance. The purpose for these updates is to create a more transparent, consistent, and accountable incentive framework that better ties the county's incentives to measurable economic outcomes, including higher wages, job creation, capital investment, and long-term public benefit. There are several statutory provisions that provide the legal framework for the county's economic development program incentives. Section 125.045 of the Florida statutes authorizes counties to use economic development tools for a valid public purpose, including attracting and retaining businesses and supporting job creation. Section 196.1995 governs economic development ad valorem tax exemptions. That program is unique because it requires voter authorization and applies only to qualifying new or expanding businesses. And Section 288.005 defines targeted industry businesses, which are generally those businesses that provide economic benefit, create jobs, and support growth within the local economy. The key point that we're here for tonight is that the county has the authority to provide incentives, but those incentives should be tied to measurable public benefit, and that is the foundation of the updates that we're going to go through tonight. The county currently has 3 primary performance-based economic incentive programs. The first is the Job Growth Investment Grant, then the impact fee mitigation, and last, the ad valorem tax exemption. Historically, eligibility has been tied to minimum thresholds, including the creation of at least 10 jobs and wages of at least 107% of the county's average wage. Based on the current wage figures shown here, 107% equals $26.33 per hour. That threshold established a baseline, but it doesn't strongly distinguish between projects that provide a modest economic benefit and those projects that provide for much higher wages, larger job creation, or greater capital investment. One of the central goals of these updates is to raise the wage expectations and better differentiate economic incentive levels based on the actual value that the project provides to the county. This update, as we went over before in a few informals, doesn't start from scratch. The county already has some of these elements in place, including a scoring criteria for the ad valorem tax exemption program, performance thresholds in our Job Growth Investment Grant program, compliance reporting. We require annual compliance reporting, and we have some of the stated clawback provisions and performance provisions. However, these elements are not applied consistently across all 3 of the programs. We've identified some of the gaps that include the lack of a consistent scoring system, limited differentiation between the projects, inconsistent application across the programs, and the need for stronger compliance and enforcement tools. Under the current incentive structure, each program is evaluated more independently. That means the Job Growth Investment Grant, impact fee mitigation, and the ad valorem tax exemption can each involve different criteria, different review approaches, and different award considerations. Under the proposed structure, the county would use one unified incentive framework. The scoring matrix that we've created would apply across all of the incentive programs, and it serves as the primary tool for evaluating eligibility and also the incentive levels. It creates a standardized, transparent process for applicants, staff, and as well as the board. This slide shows the major policy changes. Previously, incentives were often negotiated or based on typical historical schedules. Under the updated framework, incentives are tied directly to a project score. For a Job Growth Investment Grant, the score determines the percentage of the eligible grant amount. For the ad valorem tax exemption, the score determines the maximum exemption percentage and the recommended duration. For the impact fee mitigation program, the score determines the maximum percentage of mitigation. The intent is to create a link between the level of incentive and the measurable economic impact of the project. The Job Growth Investment Grant is currently structured as a per-job incentive tied to job creation and wage thresholds. Under the existing program, an eligible targeted industry expansion or relocation project must create at least 10 jobs and pay an average wage of at least 107% of the county's average wage. The current program includes a base amount per job and bonuses based on job creation, higher wages, local hires, and the use of local contractors. This program, as you're aware, it's been very successful, but it is being updated to align the grant amounts with the overall project score and to provide consistency with the other incentive programs. The updated scoring matrix, as I said, it's the core of the new incentive framework. The minimum incentive eligibility threshold is 30 points, but the project scoring between 30 and 49 points may only qualify for limited incentives. Importantly, impact fee mitigation requires a minimum score of 50 points to be eligible. We felt that was very important because mitigating impact fees requires the county to use other legally available funds to absorb the cost. Staff really advocated for higher eligibility floors, so impact fee mitigation is reserved for projects that demonstrate a stronger public benefit. The matrix includes 105 base points and up to 40 bonus points for a maximum score of 145. Base points are awarded for job creation, wage levels, and capital investment. Bonus points are available for catalytic project designation and very large-scale job creation. The scoring matrix is intended to make incentive decisions more objective, consistent, and proportional to the overall public benefit. The updated program also defines and recognizes catalytic projects. I kind of went over this in the last slide. The designation identifies projects with extraordinary economic impact. The catalytic designation provides a bonus within the scoring matrix, but it doesn't create an automatic approval or an entitlement to economic incentives. In order to qualify, a project must meet at least two of the listed criteria, which are a capital investment over $200 million, creation of 500 or more jobs, average wages of at least 135% of the county's average wage, or have a significant regional or industry-wide economic impact as determined by the Board of County Commissioners. One important theme here is that the board retains ultimate discretion. The catalytic designation is intended to recognize transformational projects, but the final incentive award remains subject to the board's approval. The proposed updates also address locally owned and operated businesses. These businesses may continue to be evaluated under the incentive programs. However, staff recognizes that local small businesses may not always fit the standard targeted industry model. For that reason, the draft resolution before you tonight directs staff to return with a separate locally owned and operated business incentive program tailored to local business expansion, reinvestment, job retention, and small business growth. That program is not being adopted tonight, but would require separate eligibility criteria and implementing documents for the board's consideration. So you'll be seeing that if adopted tonight, this resolution would guide staff to bring something back forward to you all soon. The updated framework also includes a standardized economic incentive application. The goal here is to simplify the initial review for staff regarding the eligibility, ensure that all applicants provide the same core information, job creation, wages, capital investment, project schedule, program request, and justification for the economic incentive. Each request that is anticipated to exceed over $100,000, the county will now require a fiscal impact analysis unless that analysis is waived by the board. The analysis needs to identify projected direct, indirect, and induced employment, payroll and economic output, estimate new county revenues attributable to the project, and demonstrate a minimum net fiscal benefit ratio of 1.2 to 1 over the term of the incentive. Requiring this analysis provides another safeguard to ensure larger economic incentives are supported by measurable fiscal benefit. Under the revised job growth investment grant structure, the board retains full discretion to approve, reduce, or deny any grant. The base per job value is $1,500 per qualifying full-time equivalent job. The per job value may be increased based on wage levels, capital investment, local workforce participation, and the use of local contractors. However, the total per job grant value cannot exceed $2,500 per qualifying FTE. The proposed resolution also increases the standard per project cap from $1.5 million to $2.5 million unless a higher amount is approved by a supermajority vote of the board. The overall purpose is to better align the value of the grant with the project score and the overall public benefit. This is a somewhat busy slide, but it shows the job growth investment grants bonus structure. Wage enhancements are available for projects paying at least 120%, 135%, or 150% of the county's average wage. Capital investment enhancements are available for projects investing more than $100 million. There's also another category for projects investing over $300 million. There's also a research firm enhancement for qualifying research and development activities, as well as local enhancements for projects with at least 90% local hires, or at least 75% of the construction costs performed by local contractors. The revised framework continues to require annual reports to verify wage and employment records. Grant payments are proportional to performance, subject to a minimum 70% performance threshold. Below the 70% threshold, no payment is made unless it's otherwise approved by the board. The county may also require repayment for failure to meet the performance obligations, and full repayment is required in the event of relocation outside of the county or if the business closes operations. Now we'll move on to the ad valorem tax exemption. This is a local option tax incentive that may qualify a new or expanding targeted industry business from the St. Lucie County portion of ad valorem taxes. It's governed by Section 196.1995 Florida statutes and requires voter authorization. Just for a little history, voters of the county authorized this program first in 1992, again in 2002, then in 2012, and most recently in 2022. The exemption applies only to taxes levied where St. Lucie County is a taxing authority. Historically, the county has often used a 10-year declining schedule for ad valorem exemptions. Typical schedule has provided 100% exemption for the first 5 years, followed by a declining exemption in years 6 through 10. Each exemption requires annual reporting to the county as well as the property appraiser. The issue that this schedule has become somewhat of a one-size-fits-all model. The proposed resolution creates a more structured approach, and the exemption value and duration are tied to the overall project score. The revised ad valorem tax exemption framework ties the maximum exemption percentage and the recommended duration of the project score, as I previously said. Lower scoring projects may receive shorter and smaller exemptions, while higher scoring projects may be considered for longer and more significant exemptions. For example, a limited impact project scoring 30 to 49 points may be considered for up to 3 years, while exceptional impact projects scoring 110 to 145 points may be considered for up to 10 years. These schedules are simply recommendations. The board retains full discretion to award less, modify the schedule, or deny the exemption based on project-specific public benefit. The goal here is to align the value and duration of the exemption with the actual impact of the project, like all of our other incentives. The ad valorem tax exemption updates also strengthen compliance and recapture. Residents must provide annual reports to verify compliance, and the county and property appraiser must verify compliance before the exemption continues for the next tax year. If the recipient achieves at least 70% of its required performance obligations, the board may authorize a prorated exemption based on actual performance. If performance falls below 70%, the incentive for that year is forfeited. Repayment may also be required if performance obligations are not met or if the company relocates outside St. Lucie County or ceases operations. The final program to go over is the Impact Fee Mitigation Program. It includes currently several separate eligibility pathways, including job and wage-based mitigation amounts, capital investment-based mitigation, and a separate locally owned small business pathway. While the structure provides options, it's not aligned with the unified scoring approach and can be more difficult to administer consistently. The proposed ordinance replaces those separate pathways with a scoring-based mitigation framework. Impact fee mitigation is treated differently because it directly affects infrastructure funding, and as I said, for that reason, eligibility begins at 50 points, not 30. Again, the board retains full discretion to award, reduce, or deny any application. The mitigation amount is, again, tied to the project score, with higher scoring projects eligible for a higher mitigation percentage. The ordinance also requires annual reporting and provides for repayment if obligations aren't met and the company relocates or ceases operation. This slide here summarizes the accountability changes across all of the incentive programs. Under the old structure, the programs were performance-based, but enhancement or enforcement mechanisms were limited and not always consistent across all of the incentive programs. Under the new framework, there are clear performance-based payments and enforcement mechanisms built into the resolutions before you tonight. A minimum 70% performance threshold applies for prorated benefits. Below 70%, no payment or benefit is provided unless otherwise approved by the board. The board also has direct clawback and repayment authority across all of these programs, and the repayment obligations survive termination of the agreement. Another important update that the framework includes is a 24-month commencement deadline. So approved incentives don't remain open indefinitely. We've seen instances of this where a company will get an incentive resolution or a job growth investment grant and then decide to construct in 5 years. By that time, the county's average wage has gone up and the agreement is grossly out of date and needs to be revised. This slide summarizes the policy goals we've addressed through these updates. We've increased the wage expectation from the current 107% threshold to a minimum of 115% of the county's average wage, which equals $28.30. That's a $2 an hour increase. We've created a scoring matrix to allocate points based on the desired outcomes. Those are higher wages, increased job creation, and capital investment. We provided recognition for catalytic projects and large-scale job creators. We've established sunset provisions requiring commencement of construction or operations within 24 months of approval, unless extended by the board for good cause. And we've strengthened compliance and clawback provisions across all incentive programs. These updates, we feel, respond directly to the board's prior direction to make the county's incentive programs more performance-driven and more accountable. The overall result, we feel, is a more transparent and defensible incentive program. These incentives will be tied to measurable outcomes. Projects will be evaluated more consistently across the programs. Public funds will be better protected through annual reporting, fiscal impact analysis, and clawback authority. Applicants will have a clearer expectation up front, and most importantly, the board retains full discretion on authorizing these incentives. The scoring matrix provides structure and consistency, but it does not create an entitlement program to any of the economic incentives. The first item before the board is agenda item 12A11. It's the impact fee mitigation ordinance. I wanted to note that this is a public hearing. Staff recommends that the board approve ordinance 2026-17, amending the Code of Ordinances, establishing a scoring-based mitigation system, defining catalytic projects, implementing the requirement for a 50-point minimum score for impact fee mitigation eligibility, and providing fiscal safeguards and compliance protections. The second item is agenda item 13A2. It's a regular agenda item. Staff recommends the board approve resolution 2026-94, revising the county's job growth investment grant program, adopting the county's economic incentive scoring matrix, and adopting the standardized economic incentive application. This resolution establishes the unified scoring framework and updates the job growth investment grant. So grant awards are tied to wages, job creation, capital investment, and verified performance. The third and final item before you tonight is 13A3. It is also a regular agenda item. Staff recommends that the board approve resolution 2026-95, revising the county's ad valorem tax exemption program and aligning it with the county's economic incentive scoring matrix. This resolution updates the exemption guidelines, establishes a scoring-based exemption levels and recommended durations, and strengthens compliance and reporting and also recapture provisions. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you, Ben. So the first item, the impact fee mitigation, that is a public hearing item. We'll go ahead and open it up to the public. Anyone wishing to address us on this item? Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Wes McCurry with the Economic Development Council of St. Lucie County. Katie and Knight, Business Director for the Economic Development Council, is here with me as well this evening. Just want to express support for this updated framework. I know it's been a long time in the making. It's not an easy task. Staff has done a commendable job of updating a policy framework that has been in place since the early 1990s. And also appreciate staff's consideration of the EDC's input through this process as well. I think the overall end result here definitely achieves the directives that you set forward of elevating the quality of jobs and the quality of projects that the county seeks to incentivize to come into our county or to expand within our county. Creates a predictable framework, unifying everything under one transparent, predictable scoring matrix. That's something that is extremely valuable and very important for site selectors and corporate decision makers to be able to look at a program and know exactly what they're getting, or exactly what they can get, I should say. So overall, I think this achieves all the goals of maintaining transparency, elevating the standards, ensuring accountability with recapture provisions, and also keeps everything competitive, because this is still a very competitive game. The approach that's been taken here with the unified scoring matrix to unify all of the elements under the economic toolkit under one system, which we didn't have before, is something that we've seen around the state. A lot of the larger counties that have robust economic development programs have this kind of system in place. So this keeps us competitive and moves St. Lucie County forward in the economic development arena. And I appreciate your consideration on it.
Thank you, Wes. We're still under public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on this item?
Justin Harrison here again. I would say that I agree with everything he just said. I mean, this has definitely been a long time coming, something that's been extremely necessary for our county to prevent the empty buildings or from people pulling out, a couple years after it gets done and don't finish. We've got several projects in Port St. Lucie that happened many years ago. We've got projects that are happening now in St. Lucie County. So I'm extremely happy to see something like this actually come in and also have the ability to have the clawbacks, right, where when you do give them the incentives, you can say, hey, you didn't perform, so you actually owe us the back taxes. So I think that's a really good option as well, and helps move us forward.
Thank you. All right, so this was multiple presentations again, so I just want to stay on track that what we're voting on right now. Oh, wait, let me just stop for a second. Anyone else wishing to address the board on this item? Seeing no movement and closed public hearing. This is just for the impact fee mitigation, not any of the other components. I will say what I like about this is the one portion that does also apply to small businesses. And so that was important to me because I didn't know how we were going to put two together because it's very difficult to do incentives for, a large employment generator versus a small business that's just been here in our county for 10, 20 years, 30 years contributing. So I'm happy that we're going to also be addressing that niche as well. But again, just to point out, the impact fee mitigation does apply to small businesses, and they have to agree to stay here for a period of 10 years, which I love. And they have to get a minimum of 50 points under the scoring matrix. So there's still benchmarks and guardrails, so I really appreciate that.
Chair.
Commissioner Gillespie.
So first of all, yes, this project has been great. I think that, it was like 11 years ago at this point, I was sitting in this exact chair on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and Leslie was sitting over there as a county staff, and we were talking impact fee mitigation. And I think that might have been the point where we opened it up to local companies to do it, not just new companies. And, this is something that has just been long needed. We've made numerous reforms now, if this gets adopted, with our economic incentives. It's gone from the county attorney's office over to Planning and Development Services, where I believe it belongs. And in addition to that, these different changes, I believe we need to be applying for some awards at various, state agencies or whatever it is, because this is a big improvement to what we had before. The clawback provisions alone should make our taxpayers feel more comfortable about this. And, economic incentives was something that was passed by voters, so I think this is the most responsible way to do it. And I thank Ben and the planning department staff and everybody that has helped to do this, because this is a tremendous amount of work. I'm hoping, and I think that Ben told me in my office, that there'll be some sort of calculator to streamline this process, to figure it out, because the way it's structured, it does fit into a calculator type system. So that'll be interesting to see as well. But I'm definitely in support of all of these.
Any other?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Rao,
I just
and then
want
Commissioner Lee.
to say thank you as well to Ben and staff. I know this was a lot of work, but you guys really thought of everything. I couldn't be more excited to adopt this tonight and move forward. And still, we still want to bring economic development here, but do it responsibly, and so we're not putting the burden on taxpayers, and they are able to pay their fair share. And if they aren't, then we can take that back. So thank you so much for all you've done.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Lee.
I'm just reiterating what they all said. Thank you very much. Staff did a great job. EDC, thank you for doing what you have done. And it looks like we've got a really good program here. So again, hats off to the staff. Good job.
All right, and so is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so the next two portions are regular agenda items. Next one would be the JJIG scoring matrix application. So as far as the wages, we were all at a town hall this past week, and we had a resident suggest something to us, and I did go back to the team. The resident had asked or suggested us taking a look at removing sort of like the executives or the upper level basically a way to get a more relevant picture of like the wages. Sometimes they can be skewed if your upper, execs are making $200K, but everyone else is making $60,000. I know there was some talk about going from average to median, but really we can't do that based on the way the statute is written and how the state does their incentives. It's something I brought up to the team. I don't know what the will of the rest of the commissioners are, so we'll see. But I would like to consider, I know right now it says that we take out the top two earners. Would just like to hear through your comments if there's a will to increase that. Maybe that's also a tier based on the number of jobs being created. And then as far as the prorated performance obligations, again, with putting a little more teeth, making it a little bit harder, I know we backed it down to 70,000, or 70,000, listen to me, 70%. I think I would like to keep that at 85%, but again, just sharing my thoughts, and we'll see where you guys land. So that's where I would be at for maybe some modifications to that.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Clasby.
Could we get Ben to just explain what's being proposed here as far as what counts for wages, what counts as an employee for the purposes of of being eligible for this?
Trying to go to that portion here.
I feel like I asked the same question at that planning and zoning meeting. I rewatched it recently.
And of course, I didn't bring the old packet. I know while he's pulling it, it does include bonuses, commissions, regular wages.
And it does, yeah. And we do, as far as the average wage calculation, we do take out the top two executives or the top two earners. They don't have to be executives, but we do take out the top two earners in order to calculate that average wage for that calendar year for that company. So we try to balance out if somebody's making an exorbitant amount that throws off that average. We do automatically off the top take those positions out. I don't know. We follow the state standard. I believe that they use average county wages or average wages, and I believe maybe Wes can speak to this at a state level, but we're pretty consistent with that. And we remove those top two executives from that calculation just to try to balance that average wage number.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Cosby.
So Ben, talk to me a little bit about this, because I think we've talked about it before. My concern with this sort of a program, if you hire, let's say, 1,000 people, and a chunk of them is higher than normal wages, but then a majority of them are below our incentivized salary amount. I don't necessarily see that as positive. What would be the reason we wouldn't want to look at every job individually, that it passes the mark?
I'm not saying that, and Chair Fowler, Commissioner Clasby, I think that would be something that is a good idea in theory. You incentivize, if you're incentivizing all of the jobs that are over 115%, let's throw that out there. In theory, you only want to incentivize those jobs, but the average wage does include jobs that could be under that number, and they are in the FTE count. It would, for administration of the program, I think it would be taxing on our limited staff to go through line by line with these companies that have payroll for 1,000 employees to go through each one. If that's something that the board wants us to look into, we can talk with the EDC and bring that back as a potential option. I just think it's more of a workload exercise than, and it's possible. It's just we don't do that right now. It's just the average wage.
And at previous meetings, I've also hinted at we should be looking at not incentivizing things that wouldn't be able to afford a live local project, which I think is potentially 120% of AMI, which is, apples to oranges with county wages, because that includes Martin County with the statistical area. So where do we stack up now with this program and that particular number of AMI? Do you know?
I do have the AMI here, if you give me 1 second.
It might be your last slide.
And Madam Chair, Commissioners, while he's looking that up, something to consider, which may be less difficult. I'm not going to say the word easy because I'll get killed by a couple people in here, but less difficult way to consider it maybe is when you look at your average wage as the benchmark and you have the top 2 earners taken out, you might want to say that upon looking at the average wage, this is how we're going to score it based on the criteria that's approved tonight. However, when we drill down, if there is a percentage, let's just say 20% of those, and we'll just use 100 employees for sake of argument, right? So if we say the average wage is, and I'm just saying random numbers, is not tied to what Ben's saying, but if the average wage is $30 an hour, and when we run the 100 jobs, it comes out to above that $30 an hour, so they get their points in their matrix. But then when we actually look at the pay scale of the employees, if there's more than 20% of them or something like that that is below that $30 an hour, then there's, if they go above that 20% or whatever, then there's a point deduct, because then there are a percentage of jobs that are below it. But it's easier just to do it by a percentage instead of looking at every individual job. We can kind of just class it. You could put some sort of caveat in there like that without making it too complicated or too hard for staff to be able to accurately track it. It could be something like that.
Madam Chair, that's kind of what I was thinking, but not sure how to articulate it, was the percentage of, where the jobs would fall as far as the rate of pay. Does that seem easier for you, Ben? What George is talking about?
I'm sure that we could work that out.
I will share it was
Yeah.
not the preferred method necessarily. I think there could be, based on the feedback when I was having my meeting with them, it could leave it open to a lot of either misinterpretation or it just be room for a lot of errors, and that's exactly what we're trying to take out is the error. So, and I don't want to speak for Ben, but I think given this line of talk, it would be easier to dictate a number versus a percentage. But again, I don't want to speak for.
Madam Chair, what if we were to institute a minimum as well? You take out the top 2 wage earners, but, there's also a bottom threshold to what jobs count.
You mean like take the bottoms out?
Well, right now, theoretically, they could have some people that are getting minimum wage count for this if the upper portion of that was high enough to drag the whole thing over the finish line. But I think that, instead of just looking at every single job individually, we could say the minimum amount to qualify is like $16 an hour minimum or 20 or whatever it may be. That way we're guaranteed that when we say that they're incentivized for jobs, that it's at least that amount.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lee?
could it be as simple as using the terms employees and not management, putting into the equation? So all management is not able to participate in the job and just the employees? So employees is a bad word because they're all employees, obviously.
We can try that. The problem is every business may have different titles for their positions. Somebody might be a superintendent or a floor manager or something like that we might not be able to differentiate, that it's really not a management position or it is. We were trying to make it simple so that we weren't trying to decipher every decision, and that might make it a little bit more difficult.
So maybe instead of the 2 top wage earners, make it the top 5 wage earners. That should give you a good benchmark out of there, because there's not going to be many organizations that have.
Or a percentage of employees.
Madam Chair,
I apologize.
I just wanted to finish that thought. I'm okay with it being 2, but I would like there to be a floor, right? Because, and I don't know if we're all understanding or not, but all of the jobs don't have to be over that 115%. Many of them could be under if there's a certain portion of them that drag the rest of them over the portion. And whenever we're using tax dollars to incentivize it, I think that there should be a floor, and the floor shouldn't be minimum wage. Because they can hire 1,000 people. We don't have to incentivize all of them,
Okay, let me ask, so, I mean, it kind of seems, regardless, even though we all have different thoughts on perhaps how to achieve it, sounds like we all still want a little tweaking to this part of the incentive package. So perhaps what would be the best thing to do? Would it be to let you guys take a little time to discuss what would be?
It is obviously we're operating at your pleasure, but if you would like to adopt it potentially, we have to come back with the locally owned program anyways, what's embedded into this that directs us to do it. If you'd like us to operate under this and then report back, and as we do the locally owned, as we're reporting to you, we can make changes and re-adopt it all again at that point, or if you'd prefer us to delay it. But just know, because this sets up the scoring matrix, we can't apply the others because this is the core portion of it to apply the other two programs.
So let me ask you this. In the meantime, while we know that there's going to be some tweaking to this, when a company comes in and applies, are they going to just be able to go in with what we've approved, or are we still going to be able to add this sort of what we're talking about here?
So if you do anything between those two interims, so if you adopt it today and somebody came in, assuming you chose to provide them incentives, they would be under this criteria, which is still at your discretion. But then if we then modify it later, any new businesses would then be subject to those new rules. So you will have a gap potentially.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Klasky.
And there's a public hearing for the adoption of individual companies.
For the ad valorem part, and then some of the other incentives are consent agenda items.
But we still approve them.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
So we'll see them before us if that should happen. I think that it's definitely important. Project Orchid's a catalytic project. It's important that I think we keep this moving forward, I would imagine.
I'd be good with continuing to move it forward, just knowing that there's going to be some changes, that this board is definitely looking for something to make sure that, wages aren't skewed and that we're actually seeing real data and that we're seeing the real numbers of the people that we hope they're hiring here locally in St. Lucie County. So,
And I understand that you're still debating the wages and maybe top earners or minimum. Do you still want to tackle the 70% versus the 85% for the prorated?
or does anyone want to, now currently it's at 85%.
It is currently 85. The proposal now has 70, but we can obviously go back to 85%.
Sure.
Commissioner Klasky.
Could we have Ben explain that a little bit more? Pull it up on screen maybe and just show us what that is, especially for those that may be following along at home.
I don't know if I have a really good slide here, but currently the way that our job growth investment grant in particular is structured is if you don't meet that your wage level for that or your job creation level for that year, but you're within 85% of that job creation, you get a prorated amount of the incentive that you were otherwise entitled to. So we've actually reduced that down to 70%. We really haven't had too many companies hit that 85%, but we did reduce it down to 70%, and it is at a prorated level. If you hit, 75%, you would get 75% of the award, the Job Growth Investment Grant Award, or whatever the award is that the board approves for that company.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Klasky.
So do they need to hit 100% like once and then they could be eligible for a prorated?
So I would say for, and it's really how the board wants to approve their incentive agreements. I think that we're going to be taking a harder look at those incentive agreements and how they're structured. For instance, those ad valorem tax exemptions. We don't want to be providing ad valorem tax exemptions before they provide that year one data that shows that they met their job creation numbers and their investment. Obviously, they have to meet their investment. through the property appraiser, it has to be on the tax rolls. But what happens is, we don't get their job creation schedule or their job creation numbers until after the tax bill goes out for year one. So they might be not hitting their mark as far as jobs, but getting that tax incentive, which is disingenuous with the entire system, because you promised that job creation, and that kicked off the incentive package for the company. So
when we calculate, I mean, percentages, random numbers, you could end up with a half of a number. I mean, are we rounding up whenever we say, or is it like if they've made 71.1 jobs, it counts as 72?
Haven't thought that far into it, but it's whatever the board decides. If we want to round up, round down.
I like the idea, Commissioner.
Using whole
you
numbers.
were saying to make it 85%?
That's where it currently is, in our current ordinance. And, during our, not town hall, but during our informal, I came out the gate very hard with either you make it or you don't make it. And then after sitting back and going through everything and sort of, trying to be fair about it, I just don't like the 70%. I can stay on board with the 85 and forego the 100%, and you either do it or you don't. I think there should be a little bit of flexibility, but I don't love 70%.
I like 85.
It's a C. You were a teacher, right? Like a C is not okay. Like if you're coming here, we want A or B businesses. No,
C's
George.
50 degrees,
Listen, you're looking at someone that if I brought home a 98, I got asked why I didn't get 100. So that's why
I got high five for a C.
my thought is the way it is. But yeah. So.
I would be on board with the 85%.
Anyone else?
As well.
Okay. All right. So definitely moving that back up to 85%, and then allowing the team, we'll move this forward, but allow the team some time to take into consideration our comments and make some tweaks.
So we need the resolution to be considered as approved with the change of 85%, if that's what the will of the board is.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve with the commentary of changing it to 85%.
All right. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now we're going to do the ad valorem tax exemption portion. I personally love the fact that they're not just coming in and again getting 100% year one, 90% and so on. I love that they have to have some skin in the game, and it's spread out. I think it's much more fair to existing residents. Any more questions, comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That was relatively painless.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Great job, Ben. All right, and you actually get to do your administrative approval.
First
this
time in a couple
meeting.
months. And it's so exciting. I only have one project for you today. And that one project is the Silver Line Plastics. It's a targeted industry in Fort Pierce. They just went through a minor adjustment to the minor site plan. The project is located on the northeast corner of Enterprise Road and DeGiorgio Road. It is zone industrial light. The approved adjustment would reconfigure the existing parking area. It would relocate the loading zone, shift on-site storage tanks and the associated concrete slabs which they sit on, and allow for the removal and replacement of an existing 16,000 square foot warehouse fronting Enterprise Road. And that was handled by Morgan Phelps. She is you met her at the last board meeting, and she just passed her AICP exam recently, so she is an AICP candidate.
Awesome, congratulations.
And that's it.
All right, questions? No. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you all.
All right, and that rounds things out. I'll open it for commissioner comments.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Crosby?
So last night I attended the City of Fort Pierce's City Commission meeting. wanted to witness the discussion of the city attorney, but there was also a project off Delaware that I was interested in seeing since I live in the area. And I'm glad I was there because there was a discussion about Delaware Avenue, and it's currently in our pavement management plan for FY27. So just FYI, we need to make sure that that stays in the budget, and maybe even add a little bit more because I think that road needs more work than the number I saw on there. And with that, perhaps during our, joint meeting with Fort Pierce, we asked them if they're willing to pony up any CRA dollars for maybe putting portions of Delaware on a road diet, meaning taking it from 4 lanes down to the center 2, having more parking near Elks Park because it's desperately needed, and they don't have a lot of space on site to put more parking, but we may be able to potentially accommodate parallel parking with this project. I definitely don't want to do anything that would delay the improvement of Delaware Avenue, but if there's a chance to make it better, I think we should pursue it because that road probably hasn't been repaved in 40 years or something. This summer we have the intersection getting going on 33rd in Delaware, which they've also just repaved 33rd Street from Okeechobee up to about Peterson, and there's a lot of people that were shocked that that was happening. So thank you for that. The portion that they asked me at the meeting to come back to this board and ask was that while we do the Delaware project, if it's possible to also pave, it's about 600 feet South 36th Street. It's the portion that connects to Orange Avenue, but it's related to the project that they were approving, and there was a resident there that lives off South 36th Street that was complaining that it's just in terrible condition. It's a pretty well-used roadway, and I think that 600 feet may be a decent addition to that project since they're already going to be in the area. Maybe we could just ask staff to look into that.
Anyone else?
I don't have anything.
I'm just going to share, I was surprised to see the one item on the administrative approval update because the company actually reached out to my office, and I'll be touring it with the EDC on Wednesday, sometime this week. So anyway, I'm excited. I'll come back and I'll share all the good stuff they have going on over there. And with that, Mr. Maite, you good?
I apologize. I just have one clarifying. As you guys were talking, I just went and double checked the impact fee mitigation program as well as the ad valorem. They both include the 70%. I don't know if you'd want to modify your motions to include 85% for prorated for both of those items so that they're consistent. And I apologize, I just noticed it.
Nope, you're good. I saw your hand go to your mouth. I was like, we're not done yet. Okay, so who?
You did it on the
Commissioner
first
Klasby, I
read.
think you made the motion for the impact fee.
I'd like to.
Is that right?
I would like to ask the attorney, what should we do here? We have to pull back the motion?
You should pull back the motion, and then once that's,
Reconsider?
once you've pulled back the motion, then you should make a new motion after that passes.
Okay. Remind me which agenda item it was.
This is going to be 11, sorry. This is 12A11.
I'd like to make a motion to reconsider agenda item 12A11. Let me need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I don't understand what you're doing.
So we're going to rescind the approval of the 12A11, and then there's going to be a new motion because the other two regular items, 13A2 and 3, have a 85% threshold for a mechanism, but the public hearing item was still at 70, so we're correcting that.
And one regular item.
And one regular item, and correcting that one too. So because we only did it on the one item, the one regular item, the 13A3, so we got to do it on the.
Okay, so Commissioner
A2,
Clasberry,
13A2.
Commissioner Clasby is rescinded. Would you like to remake the motion?
Yeah, I'd like to just go ahead and disclose that my disclosures are the same as the previous. And I'd like to make a motion to approve this item 12A11 with the added increase to 85%.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, regular agenda item 13A3, we also need to rescind and then remake the motion.
Was I the motion maker on that?
We didn't make a motion on that one, did we?
Yes.
That was a regular
That
item.
was
There
the
was a
one.
motion. We just, I don't know who the motion maker was.
Madam Secretary, for 13A3, was Clasby the mover? Lead was? Okay, Commissioner.
It can be anybody from the prevailing side. This is a point of order. So I'll make a motion to reconsider number,
13A3.
item 13A3.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right. And is there a new motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 13A3 with the changing it to 85%.
Motion and a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Maite. And Mr. Landry.
So now that she'll be able to sleep okay tonight. And we have another piece of good news before I get into the specifics. You know, in June, you only have one commission meeting, you know, which is going to be June 2nd at 6 p.m. here in the commission chambers. So that provides, you know, the 5 years a very brief opportunity to take a vacation if you so desire, you know, and then we get into a much busier, I got to make sure I use the words right, busier time in July, August, September, and then than this. So we only have the one meeting Tuesday, June 2nd at 6 p.m. here in these commission chambers for the month of June.
So bring a sleeping bag is what you're saying for that.
It might be a long
Got
one.
it. Understood.
And then Eric will close out announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. Before we get to hurricane season, we have to get through mosquito season. So St. Lucie County will host 3 tire amnesty events to provide residents a way to recycle unused tires at no cost to them and a way to reduce mosquito breeding, as unused tires stored around yards are notorious for collecting water and becoming prime habitat for disease-carrying mosquito species. This initiative will provide a no-cost option to get those tires recycled. St. Lucie County residents will have the option of recycling up to 6 non-commercial tires, that's 26 inches or less, at any of the scheduled tire amnesty events. Tires will only be accepted without rims. Each resident will also ask to provide a photo ID to validate their residence, and the residents can take part in the tire amnesty program on Saturday, May 23rd, at the St. Lucie County Baling and Recycling Facility, also known as the landfill, located at 6120 Glades Cutoff Road in Fort Pierce. Saturday, May 30th, at the Paula Lewis Branch Library, located at 2950 Southwest Rosser Road in Port St. Lucie. And Saturday, June 13th, at the St. Lucie County Mosquito Control and Public Works Compound, located at 3150 Wilfie Road in Fort Pierce. All 3 of these events will take place between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. And Rec and Roll returns this summer as St. Lucie County Parks and Recreation brings family-friendly activities into the community. This is designed for students who aren't able to attend traditional camps. Rec and Roll brings summer camp fun directly to neighborhood parks at no cost. The program takes place Tuesdays through Fridays in June and July from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. with staff providing games, sports, and activities such as kickball, basketball, flag football, and more. A special archery day will take place every Wednesday at Longwood Stadium located on Virginia Avenue. And archery is limited to the first 15 participants that sign up, and there is a $10 fee for the archery program. To register for archery, they can go to stluciecountyfl.perfectmind.com, and to find the locations for the parks that are offering the free Rec and Roll programs, they can go to stlucieco.gov and search Rec and Roll.
And actually, happy birthday to our mosquito control district who turned 100 this year as well. He reminded me with the mosquito control with the tires and stuff. So, all right, guys, thanks. Good meeting. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.